Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting edition of The Pit, our Georgia Regional Sports Show, where we're joined by several counterparts all across the state of Georgia. Want to check in now with WRDW Weekend Sports anchor Joseph Dorick. Meanwhile, we have our guy James Irvin, our sports contributor over at WALB, and of course, the man himself, Ryan Kelly, the WCTV sports director, WTVM sports director, Tony Reese. Thank y'all for joining us for another exciting edition. Gentlemen, let's just get right into it. Now, a lot of things going on in the college atmosphere across the state of Georgia. Big matchups going down this Saturday as spring games come back around. Starting off with G-Day, we know the Georgia Bulldogs hosting another spring game. A lot of positives going into this one. They failed just shortly coming up against Ole Miss, going back to that Sugar Bowl a couple months back. But what are we really anticipating seeing out of these guys? We'll start it off with, let's go with you, Joe.
Yeah, I think the one thing I really want to see the most out of the spring game is the wide receiver depth. We've only got one Georgia Bulldog wide receiver who's a senior, and that's London Humphreys, and I just want to see who's going to be getting the rock more this year. I know the tight end room, there's a lot of mouths to go around there for who can catch passes out there in the flat, but I want to see the guys who are going to be running deep routes, hitting the post routes later on into the actual season this fall. And the other question you could ask is who's going to be stepping up on defense, because that is the aspect that has gotten Georgia killed in the postseason in the last 2 years against Ole Miss and Notre Dame. So I want to see some wide receiver depth, and I want to see the defensive guys start to take names and take notice, put the rest of the season on notice here.
Ryan, what's your thoughts there? I know you're down in the whole Tallahassee atmosphere, but Georgia's a big circuit for y'all as well. What's your thoughts?
For sure, and I'd like to echo that. Wide receivers, I want to see what Georgia can do when they have to push the ball down the field. Defensively, going off that point, it is kind of funny to say that a Kirby Smart coach team defense has kind of been the Achilles heel the last 2 seasons. But yeah, I want to see what they can do. Of course, when it comes to spring games, it's always so hard to look into, well, they look good. Does that mean that they were bad? Does that mean that they were just good? Does that mean that they were just bad? Regardless, I just want to give Kirby Smart and the guys credit for actually broadcasting G-Day, actually putting out on ESPN Plus, on SEC Network Plus. You see that not happen a lot throughout college these days. So for UGA to do that, big tip of the cap for them. But yeah, overall, the Dogs, I want to see what they can do in that passing game. I want to see what Mike Bobo's unit can bring to the table in Athens here soon.
James, your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it kind of feels like this Georgia offense for the last few years has really lacked that star true playmaker. Obviously, Zachariah Branch was incredible for the Bulldogs, but who's going to be that next person to kind of step up and take this offense to the next level? Obviously, you got Gunnar Stockton, who we saw what he's capable of doing on the field, but you also got Monroe Freeling, who's headed to the draft, potential first-round pick. What's this offensive line going to look like? Can they protect Gunnar Stockton? And who's going to be that other running back along with Nate Frazier to step up and really take some of these carries and take the load off of Frazier? But really feels like this Georgia offense has lacked that elite playmaker over the last few seasons. I'm interested to see who's going to be that player to kind of step up and become that for the Bulldogs this season.
Gentlemen, I couldn't agree more. I think there's going to be a lot of positives going into this one. The biggest thing is the fact that Gunnar Stockton is by far coming back. So they already have an established quarterback. It's going to be a pretty exciting one. I know I'll be there in attendance as well. So hopefully we'll get some in-depth looks into how this team looks come fall. But we also have to talk about the Atlanta team and the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. They've added a lot of additions. They have their white and gold game taking place this weekend. And the biggest thing is Alberto Mendoza. Not Fernando's brother, who is already expected to make a big presence on campus and replace a guy like Haynes King. That's a tough get, but what are some of your thoughts there, guys?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think the biggest excitement for Georgia Tech spring game is what does Alberto Mendoza look like? Obviously, Haynes King leading the Yellow Jackets to their first ranked finish in 11 years. He was a legend on campus. A lot of the times the game plan on offense was Haynes King, just go make your magic happen. I'd be interested to see if Alberto Mendoza can kind of continue that trend, but I'm excited to see what the other Mendoza brother looks like.
I can't agree with you.
Listen,
Go ahead, right?
It's one of those things that's interesting. Yeah, I'm really interested to see Mendoza, but let's not forget, this is an offense that's completely being reworked. Buster Faulkner, no longer the offensive coordinator at the Flats, and now you've got a guy in George Godsey that I can't wait to see what this team brings to the table. It always kind of seemed from a distance. Sometimes Brink Key would say some things where he didn't always seem happy with the offensive play calling, despite having Haynes King, despite having that physical jacket attack. So I'm kind of interested to see. I know spring game we won't see everything that we want to see out of the white and gold, when it comes to what happens this fall, but I'm anxious to see, does Georgia Tech's offense have a slightly different identity now that it's got a new play caller? I'm fascinated to see what that looks like. And yeah, again, anytime you've got a guy with the last name Mendoza in college football right now, you're going to pay attention. I can't wait to see what Alberto does as well.
No doubt about it. Joe?
Yeah, I think Mendoza is definitely the draw for getting people into this spring game and definitely creating some more buzz for the season. But that was what I wanted to talk about, was the fact you've got both new coordinators on each side of the ball. What is that going to look like later in this year? We know the success that they were able to have this past season, of course, with Haynes King and how good that offense was. As you said, just make a play out there. Just go do your thing. I think we'll be all right, but I want to see what this offense and defense collectively can do, because we saw Georgia Tech lose some games last year that were very winnable, like the one up in Wake Forest. That was a defensive meltdown. And they also had some offensive struggles in that game, but the defense was a little bit to blame in even some of their wins this year as to why they were so close. So I'm very interested to see how both sides of these balls look come, I guess, August here. God, we're getting close to football season already.
I know, right? And we got to talk about a quick mention, staying on the flats. Georgia Tech baseball is phenomenal right now. I think arguably they just came out as the number 2 team this week. I think they should be number 1, 30-5 overall. This team has played some tough matchups. They just come off that big series against Florida State, which we know is another top-ranked opponent. I think these guys might just go all the way to Omaha at this point, riding a 12-game win streak. Man, what are we seeing out of them?
I'm seeing a team that can hit the ball. They're absolutely as advertised. I mean, Drew Burris is the guy in the game, and the name, I should say, that everybody came in. But you're also seeing a Tech pitching staff that's starting to step up a little bit. And granted, as the Tallahassee guy here, I can tell you, Florida State's offense has struggled mightily since Miles Bailey had his leg injury and ended up out for the season. I'm curious to see what the Noles look like lineup-wise throughout the year, what that average does as they kind of struggle at times to manufacture runs across. And you saw some times where FSU just melted down at Russ Chandler this weekend, and Georgia Tech didn't blink. And that's a huge credit to James Ramsey, who obviously means a lot to a lot of the people around here. And I talked to some of the Florida State folks when they've come back from Atlanta. A lot of them are very impressed with what he's been able to do. Of course, he's been on that staff for a while now, knew what needed to be changed, knew what needed to be tweaked as Danny Hall stepped aside and retired. This is a team that's starting to round into form, and they play with a chip on their shoulder, just like the guy who's in that dugout. He motivates them. He presses the right buttons. That offense, until that final game of the series, didn't quite have the pop that you're used to seeing out of Georgia Tech. But even then, they found ways to do it. That first game of the series on Thursday, I thought was really impressive. The way they were able to grit that out, the way we were able to hold down the stretch when Florida State made that surge in the ninth. Granted, it was a base running error that also kind of doomed Florida State as well. But Tech's so impressive. Listen, UCLA, I get it. They've only lost 2 games this year. They've played some good opponents, but they're not playing the competition week in, week out that Georgia Tech has. I am interested to see when we get into the postseason how that Tech pitching staff goes against some better lineups, because as we all know, for the longest time, pitching staff has been the Achilles heel for the white and gold. I'm interested to see if Rammer's guys can get that turned around in his first season at the helm.
Can't agree with you more, Jim. Any last thoughts here on this, Buck?
I was just going to say, Ryan hit the nail on it.
Oh, go ahead.
No, my bad. I was just going to say, Ryan hit the nail on the head with this Yellow Jackets offense. It is, yeah, absolutely. But it's an electric offense. I mean, they're 3rd in the country right now in home runs. They lead the country in on-base percentage. I mean, if you're going to play the Yellow Jackets, you got to find ways to score and keep up with this offense, because this offense just explodes every time they step onto the diamond.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, it was kind of funny going back to the first or second episode of The Pit that we actually ever did a few months ago. It was when Tech's baseball season was just getting started, and they had that insanely good start to the season. We talked about, is this sustainable? Is this something that we're going to see later down the line? Maybe Tech not even reaching double-digit losses, and here they are only with 5 of them heading into close right now to the postseason as we get ready to maybe see the Yellow Jackets go on to Omaha. I definitely think this is a team that can get there. I think it was a great point about their pitching staff. That's got to be reliable come in the postseason, but especially if you want to get to Omaha when you're down to those final few teams, that pitching staff becomes incredibly crucial for winning those close games.
Gentlemen, I couldn't agree with you more. A lot of excitement there. Looking forward to see what they do in the next series as well as that deep run. But coming up after the break, we're going to keep things going. This time we're going to pitch it up to the A, where every Atlanta team right now is hot. You won't want to miss it. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Thank y'all for joining us for the pit. We have to go to Atlanta, where right now the Braves are arguably one of the hottest teams in the MLB. They lead the NL East right now. They're looking pretty darn good. And Drake Baldwin, guy's a stud. Man, what are we seeing out of them, and what are some of your thoughts? Starting out with you, Joe.
Yeah, he won the Rookie of the Year for a reason. Drake Baldwin, a crucial piece to that offense this year. And something else that we did talk about before the Braves season got started during spring training was what was this offense going to look like in the absence of Jorge Soler, how Ronald Acuna was maybe going to carry over some of that momentum off of his injury return last year. Was that going to translate into this year? That has a little bit of a slow start for Ronald Acuna, but everybody else seems to be picking up the slack out there. As you mentioned, Drake Baldwin, Matt Olson's had a nice start to the season. Ozzie Albies has had a couple clutch home runs here to start the year off. So I'm loving what I'm seeing right now out of the Braves, and I do think this is a team that if they can keep staying healthy, because we haven't had too many issues going into the actual regular season, if they can stay healthy, watch out for those Braves.
James, we got to talk about it, man, too. In top of the powder blues, man, everything looks real nice up there with the Braves. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have to agree. The City Connects look absolutely amazing on field. They are as advertised. But I think right now for the Atlanta Braves, it's the unlikely contributors. We talked a lot about in the offseason how Atlanta didn't necessarily go out and get these big-name free agents. But how about Dom Smith, Mauricio Dubon, Jorge Mateo stepping up while Michael Harris, which congratulations, just welcomed his son, Michael Harris III. So he's on paternity leave. So the way that Exactly. But the way that these unlikely contributors have kind of stepped up for the offense in general, I mean, we talked about, all the pitching staff injuries that they had, but this team right now looks really hot. It looks like they're having fun. I love Walt Weiss. I was a little skeptical of the Walt Weiss hire, but he's out here tackling players, all right, for his team. I love the way Walt Weiss has managed and called these games, but it's just really just the unlikely contributors that we didn't necessarily expect to have as big an impact on the Atlanta team as they're having. But with the way the bench is going right now, you got some tougher decisions, I think, than AA would have thought he had, especially when Hassan Kim and Sean Murphy are all coming back, because I don't think you can get rid of Mauricio Dubon the way he's playing right now. Dom Smith kind of seems like he is your DH guy, so it'll be interesting to see what moves are made, but the unlikely contributors right now for Atlanta are really propelling this team to first place in the NL East.
I can't agree with you more. Ryan, taking a look at that division there, it's a tough one already, but the fact that the Braves are leading the pack, just kind of what are your thoughts there?
For sure. And to the earlier point, the Braves are seeing plenty of Soler, maybe just not how they're used to seeing him after this week and the big fight in Anaheim. But all that being said, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about the Braves, and we were talking about you need the stars to be stars, and you cannot afford to get behind the way the Braves have done in the last few years past in the NL East. Turns out that was half true, because the stars haven't always been stars. Like you guys said, Ronald Acuna Jr. still trying to heat up into this season. But as long as you're getting production from outside pieces in this lineup, guys you're not necessarily thinking about, if you can start to get those stars to play a more consistent, oh buddy, this can be an Atlanta team that when they're fully healthy by the break, they can certainly say a few things about it. The run differential has been awesome throughout the week, and when you look at this team, and you look at, this is a team that, correct me if I'm wrong here, the only loss that they had this week was Chris Sale's start. How about that? If you have that, or no, excuse me, they lost that game, then they lost to the Guardians because Parker Messick, that's a guy we saw down here in Tallahassee.
Oh, yeah.
I can shove. Truly special stuff there for the guards. But listen, when you're getting that sort of consistent play out of your team, and you're doing it at a time where you're banged up, where you're bruised up, and you've got to lead in the NL East, a highly competitive division, yeah, you'll take that any day of the week. If you can just tread water, even not necessarily do it as well as you're doing it right now, but just okay enough to where you're healthy and ready to go in the back half of the season, you can really make some hay in August and September, and maybe have a little October to baseball to start.
All good points, fellas. Meanwhile, we want to stick in Atlanta, the Hawks, man. That team has been fired the last month, and now they have officially clinched the 6th seed, set for that playoff matchup this weekend against the New York Knicks, a team that they played in the past, a team that broke their win streak this season. They had a 13-game win streak going into that one. Just kind of what are we really hoping to see there, and just who's really been showing out for you? Starting off with you, James, let's go for it.
Yeah, no, I think this Hawks-Knicks series is really, really intriguing. I think it's the most intriguing matchup of the first-round playoffs to me personally. I know Knicks fans kind of get a little PTSD, but Trae Young isn't here this time. So it'll be interesting to see if Jalen Johnson and Dyson Daniels can keep doing what they're doing. But, man, I really, really like I really do like Quinn Snyder, the head coach for the Atlanta Hawks. I'm curious to see how he's going to manage this team and coach this team going into a five-game series with the Knicks. But I think it's going to be really interesting. Like I said, I'm really intrigued to see how they can kind of match up and stop that duo they got over there with Cat and Brunson. Obviously, you got Bridges as well. So the Knicks got a really talented team, but I think Atlanta matches up well with them.
No doubt about it. What about you, Joe?
I'm a Boston guy, so I just hope both teams got there and have fun this week. But I do think it is undeniable to see what the Hawks have done this season in the absence of shipping off Trae Young and getting rid of some other what we thought were key assets here in the last couple seasons, and just the overall turnaround they've had. They went from the 3 play-in buddies with the Heat and the Bulls, now back into the playoffs and not having to worry about playing in the play-in. So very good turnaround for them very quickly here. So I'm interested to see what they do. I'd love to see them beat the Knicks because I don't really care to see the Knicks go any farther than the first round. So go Hawks this week for me, baby.
No doubt about it. Ryan, a lot of firepower on both sides. Who you got?
Listen, this is a team that knows who they are right now. Quinn Snyder has this team playing with an identity. 2 weeks ago, we were talking about what a success it would be if this team got the 6th seed. Well, guess what? They do. They're not a play-in team like Miami. They're not a play-in team like Orlando because they know who they are. They know how to exceed what their talent is, and they know how to get the most out of everybody on the floor. They know their role. And the very fact that we're talking about Atlanta being in a competitive series with the Knicks, I think that says worlds about where this team is, about what this front office has done, and how Quinn Snyder has been able to coach this squad. So listen, I think this is a series that could go late. I think if you're them, you avoid the play-in tournament. You avoid maybe being a sacrifice for the Celtics in the first round to bring the C's back up again. But overall, if you're Atlanta, regardless of how this series goes, what a successful season this has been, and what a bright future it seems like they have at State Farm Arena.
I got to say, man, the culture up there is just phenomenal. You talk about some of those key guys. You bring in the vets like C.J. McCollum. You bring in Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Guy can shoot lights out any given night. Jalen Johnson, MIP. Guy is just phenomenal across the board. They have so many young guys coming in. Buddy Hield got some solid minutes the other night with 34 points. Guys are just clicking at the right time, and I think this is well needed for the city of Atlanta to host a big game like this, but also just to come in and hot and hopefully make a statement early on in the first round to show that they have what it takes and could possibly make it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. I might say it, the finals at this point, but it's getting too far ahead of ourselves. You got to take one series at a time, one game at a time, but a lot of excitement by far with the Atlanta culture right now. Well, coming up after the break, we have to talk about the Masters and Rory McIlroy. You won't want to miss it. We'll be right back. We have to talk about the Masters. Rory McIlroy goes back to win this thing. And who better to talk about it than Mr. Masters himself? Mr. Joe, go ahead and take the word.
I should have wore a green jacket today, but yes, Rory McIlroy becoming the first golfer to repeat at the Masters since Tiger Woods did it 24 years ago in 2001 and 2002. Just an incredible feat. He's only the 4th golfer to ever win back-to-back green jackets now. We had the fortune of sitting out there on the 18th green yesterday and getting to watch his win this year as well as last year on Sunday. I wish the emotion was a little bit higher from Rory this year, but I can understand that the emotion, most of it came out last year after finally conquering his demons at Augusta National Golf Club and finally getting over the hump for his first green jacket. Now he's got 6 majors, and the last 2 have come within a year span. The other 4, they came all the way back in 2013 and 2014. So it's been quite some time, and we might be seeing the second surge of Rory's career here. I'm interested to see how he's going to kind of handle the rest of the majors this year. That's what we talked about last year. It was now that he's gotten over the hump, he's won the career Grand Slam. Does this open the floodgates for him to win even more majors and just take the pressure off of him in these final rounds? We'll see if it happens this year. He's playing some incredible golf right now. This camera doesn't do it justice, but I got toasted out there on the 18th green yesterday. We were there for about 4 or 5 hours watching golf, and my goodness, it was the price to pay, but it's a price you pay to watch history, and I was so happy to be a part of it yesterday for Rory's win.
No doubt about it, man. A once-in-a-lifetime situation. Fellas, last-minute thoughts?
I was going to ask you, Joe. I was like,
Go ahead, dude.
I was going to say, Joe, I was going to ask you, there's a lot of talk online that Rory, was playing the tournament and, maybe had an unfair advantage just playing that course for a lot more times than the other competitors did. Do you buy that? Is there any truth to that? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I know that he kind of confirmed that story is true in his final press conference after he won the green jacket last night. He had said felt like his home course the last several weeks because he did take 3 weeks off, and he talked about flying up to Augusta to play the course while he would, drop Poppy off to school, his daughter, go play the course, fly back, eat dinner with her. I do think it's an advantage, but it's one that you earn by winning the Masters. Any other golfer who's won the Masters likely has some kind of opportunity to come back to Augusta National Golf Club as much as they please to be able to get in some kind of practice, whether it's earlier in the year or closer to the tournament. That was Rory's decision to take 3 weeks off of regular play and come up here and play the golf course a few times. So I got no problem with it. If you got a problem with it, win the green jacket.
No doubt about it. Ryan?
Yeah, just one quick thing from me. That was a dude on Sunday who looked like he'd been there, done that, instead of the dude who was chasing for so long and so long and so long. Now that pressure is gone and Rory's playing loose in Augusta, he might win a couple more.
Hey, man, I'm just saying he looks real Scotty Scheffler like the last couple seasons. I'm excited for what he has in store for a remainder. But just like that, another exciting edition of the Pit has come to a close. Fellas, thank y'all for joining us today. And, man, it's been an exciting one. Let's do this again this time next week.